This movie is for Learning Target 4, multiplying two binomials or a binomial by a trinomial. So if you're watching this movie, I do want you to do the warm-up, but you can do that at the end. I want to show you how to multiply two polynomials. Now we're used to multiplying a monomial like 2x times a binomial like x plus 4. We know to take this monomial and distribute in. 2x times x gives me 2x squared, and 2x times 4 gives me 8x. What we're going to do is we're going to take two binomials and multiply. So I have two terms times two terms. In order to do that, what you must do is take the first term and distribute it into the two terms of the second polynomial. So I do 2x times x, giving me 2x squared, and 2x times 4, giving me 8x. Then, once you've done that, you need to take the second term and distribute that one into both terms. So then I have plus 3x plus 12. And the last step is to see if you have any like terms, like these two, which both have an x, and then you would add those two like terms. So we get 2x squared plus 11x plus 12. Before you circle it, make sure it's in standard form. And it is. And that's how you multiply two polynomials. Let's try that with this one. I have a binomial multiplied by a binomial. I have two terms multiplied by two terms. So I take the first term, the 3x, and I distribute in to each term of the second polynomial. It could have two terms, it could have three terms, but I want to distribute. 3x times 2x gives me 6x squared. 3x times 7 gives me 21x. Then I want to take my second term, which don't forget that minus becomes a negative 5. That negative 5 is going to distribute into each of these two terms. And I have negative 5 times 2x, giving me negative 10x. And negative 5 times 7, giving me negative 35. The last step is to see if we have any like terms, and these two guys are like terms, so I add those together. I bring down the 6x squared, I add my two like terms, and I get 11x, and then I still have the minus 35. Because that's in standard form, I'm going to circle it. Okay, let's see if we can get a little more complicated with our variables. Let's simplify these binomials. So let's take the first term and distribute into each term of the second. So 5x squared y times xy gives me 5x cubed, because x squared times x is x cubed, y squared. Then I do 5x squared y times 4x squared. That's going to give me 5 times 4, 20. X squared times x squared is x to the 4th, and I still have a y. Then I want to take my second term, which is a negative 3, and distribute that in. Negative 3 times xy is minus 3xy. Negative 3 times 4x squared is negative 12x squared. Now, before I circle this, I want to see if I have any like terms, meaning the same variable to the same power. And I'm looking at this. This guy doesn't have any like terms, nor does that guy. That's an x to the 4th. So let's look at the degrees. The degree of this one is 5, this one is 5, this one is 2, and this one is 2. So it's fine to say this guy's in standard form and circle that. Now, one thing that you may hear is that you can use something called FOIL to multiply two binomials. Now, if you take the idea of distributing every term in the first polynomial by every term in the second, that always works. FOIL is a method that only works when you have a binomial, 2 terms, times a binomial, 2 terms. Although having said that, we do a lot of multiplying binomials. And what that means is, for FOIL, you are taking the first term in each one and multiplying it, like 5x times 2x. Then you're taking the outer 2 terms, like 5x times 1. Then you're taking the inner 2 terms, like negative 3 and 2x, and multiplying those. And then the last terms, which would be negative 3 and 1. And then multiplying those, you can simplify each one to get your answer. So this would give you 10x squared plus 5x plus negative 6x plus negative 3. And you can see that you have 2 like terms here, 10x squared minus x minus 3. So you can think of it in terms of FOIL, first, outer, inner, last, only if you have a binomial times a binomial. These are more practice. I would like you to do these 2 when the movie's over and then check on the completed class notes. So please circle those 2 and then check on the completed class notes. We're going to work on this one. This one has 2 rectangles and we want to find the area of the shaded region. So in order to find the area in between these 2 rectangles, what we could do is take the area of each of these and find its difference. So if I took the area of the large rectangle and I subtracted off the area of the small rectangle, would that give me the amount of space in between? Yes. So what I need to do is find the areas of each of these. Let's find the area of the large rectangle. Area is length times width, so this is 2x plus 5 times 3x plus 1. And when you multiply 2 binomials, you distribute into each term. So this gives me 2x times 3x is 6x squared. Then 2x times 1 is 2x. Then I have to take the 5 and multiply that into both terms. So I get plus 15x plus 5. These 2 middle terms are like terms. Won't happen all the time, but in this case it does. So I get 6x squared plus 17x plus 5. That's the area of the large rectangle. Next, I need to get the area of the smaller rectangle. Area is length times width, so I do x plus 2 times x. So we're going to distribute the x into each one. So that gives me x squared plus 2x. So I've got the area of both. The last thing I want to do is subtract. So I get the area of the larger rectangle, which is 6x squared plus 17x plus 5. And I'm going to take that and I am going to subtract off the area of the small rectangle, which is x squared plus 2x. So I am now dealing with adding and subtracting polynomials. So this is acting like a -1 and I need to distribute in. So this is going to give me 6x squared plus 17x plus 5. The first polynomial is not affected. Minus x squared minus 2x. So after I distribute that -1 into each term, now I'm going to add like terms. So this gives me a 5x squared, and then I have 17x minus 2x. So I get plus 15x, and then I have plus 5. So my result is 5x squared plus 15x plus 5. And the way that we got that is found the area of the larger rectangle, subtract the area of the smaller one. I would like you to star this, and after the movie I want you to do that and then check with the completed class notes. When you're writing or trying to figure out a trinomial times a binomial, it might help to write the binomial first and the trinomial second. Then what you do is you do exactly what you've been doing, except it's applied to 3 terms. You distribute the first term into each of those. So that gives you 8x cubed plus 2x squared minus 12x. Then you would take the second term, the negative 3, and distribute that into each of the 3 terms. The only difference is instead of distributing into 2 terms, you distribute to 3 terms. You get negative 12x squared minus 3x plus 18. Now we're going to combine our like terms. I've got a cubed here, so I get 8x cubed. 2x squared minus 12x squared gives me a negative 10x squared. And then a negative 12x minus 3x, negative 15x plus 18. That's all for the movie. I would like you to now complete the starred problems, including this one. Let's see if that's all that we have. Yeah, including that one, that last one. So try those starred problems and then go to the completed class notes to check your answers before you start the homework.